Greetings Guardians, my name is Byfear. So with the bits of lore dropping this week, we have a firmer grasp than ever on who the Conductor really is. It sounds a little bit odd because we know, yeah, it's Maya Sundaresh, but the problem, as I've explained it before, is that there are a lot of possible Maya Sundaresh copies that this could have been, and even beyond that there's the question of how exactly did Maya come to this state? Especially including the bit where how did she become an exo, one that looks like Lakshmi too. There's a lot of different questions around this, and thankfully, the latest bits of lore help a lot to clarify which of these copies of Maya Sundaresh the Conductor is, and also how she became the Conductor and how she became, well, the exo frame that we see before us. So we're going to read into that lore today, and then straighten out the Conductor's identity amongst the many other Maya Sundareshes. But first, if you're looking for a top-tier gaming PC, you need to know about today's sponsor, StarForge. You've probably heard of them by this point, but if you've missed out before, there's no better time to get one of their top-of-the-line gaming PCs. StarForge PCs are custom-built and can help you cut through all the hassle of getting a new PC for yourself. With a white glove service and a 2-year parts and labor warranty, your future gaming rig is in safe hands. What's even better is that they have a variety of rigs available at a variety of price points, from fully stacked content creator rigs, such as their Voyager series, to approachable and budget-friendly starter rigs like the Horizon series. Check the link down below to grab one for yourself, and thanks again to StarForge for sponsoring this video. Anyway, back to the lore. So before we do any of this, let's clarify a few things, and then let's answer some really basic questions. Clarification. What do I mean by there are many copies of Maya Sundaresh? I've spoken about it a few different times, but the short version of this. There is the original copy of Maya Sundaresh, who died on Neomuna in the Conductor's chair, and who then had her mind sent into the Veil and, by extension, the Vex network. And then, before this point, there were 227 copies of Maya Sundaresh that were released into the Vex network through the Citadel on Venus. Those are Vex simulated copies of her made during the Golden Age. And the problem that we had before us was that the Conductor could have been any one of those 228 copies. However, this is now getting a little bit clearer because we can answer some basic questions. Question number 1. Is the Conductor the Maya from Neomuna or one of the 227 copies from Venus? And it turns out, she is the original Maya Sundaresh from Neomuna, not one of the 227 copies. The second question is this: what about M-Sund-12? For those of you who don't know or don't remember, in the Insight Terminus Strike, we see Maya Sundaresh, aka a user log known as M-Sund-12, accessing or preventing Otsot from accessing a data artifact that may or may not be the Oxa machine way back in, like, Warmind, I believe this was released. This is something that recently got updated just during the Final Shape era, and it turned out that M-Sund-12, which at first we thought was a copy of Maya Sundaresh, was still around. So what about them? What is M-Sund-12? Well, it turns out she's also the Conductor. Confused? Let's take a step back and look for a moment at an assertion. The 12 at the end of M-Sund-12 always led me and others to assume that this particular copy of Maya Sundaresh was just that, the 12th of the 227 copies. Turns out that that assumption is not true. M-Sund-12 is the same as the original Maya from Neomuna. That's just how she is being represented within the Vex network. Why 12? I'm not sure. But we know that that's the case because of Encore. Under your radar throughout the mission, Maya communicates with you through your text log, and when you get introduced to her, she is connecting to you as M-Sund-12, implying that M-Sund-12 is in fact the same Maya Sundaresh from Neomuna, the original Maya Sundaresh. So M-Sund-12 and the Conductor are the same person. Good to know. That's the basics. Now we get to explain how we understand all of that. In the process, we'll also explore how Maya got her body that looks like Lakshmi too, and why she's been experimenting with the dozens of copies of Xioma. Well, maybe we'll leave that second part to another video. It's kind of touched on at the end of one of our lore segments here, but it deserves a sort of examination on its own because, well, it's one of the grimmest notes of body horror in all of Destiny, and Well, you know we love some horrifying lore on the channel. Anyway, our first real hint to the nature of things comes from the introductory cinematic of Echoes Act 3, which shows Maya Sundaresh and Chioma Essie traveling to Neomuna, aka Neptune at the time, and discovering the Veil before Maya immerses herself in it, using the conductor's chair. Maya's physical body died when she immersed herself in the Veil, as we learned from the Veil containment logs. When she used the conductor's chair and connected to the Veil, though, her consciousness survived and pushed into that great web of consciousness. As it turns out, this inner web of the Veil connects to the Vex network, which is how Maya was able to infiltrate the Vex. Keeping herself intact throughout that process and not being subsumed by the Vex is actually a pretty remarkable feat. Being inside a network whose consciousness bears down on you and threatens to subsume you often leads to that exact outcome. Guardians have succumbed to this. Guardians like Ashamir were able to hold off against the network for some time, but ultimately ended up failing because, well, they got found, and they just did not have enough strength. Being inside a network with a mind the size of a mountain often means getting crushed in an avalanche. It was noted within this episode, the remarkable force of personality might be what kept Maya distinct within the network. And so Maya did just that. That leads us to this moment where Maya actually interacted with the Echo. We get a look at this from two different perspectives, one of a more general perspective of the denizens of the Vex network, and another from Maya's own perspective, in the moments afterwards. We can combine these moments to get a better perspective on what happened and how Maya transformed from just another mind lost within the network to the conductor, one who was able to control and command the Vex before her. You can find both these perspectives in the As a Stranger Gives It Welcome and Mind a Body entries of the Polyphony lorebook. Both those entries read as follows, starting with As a Stranger Give It Welcome. The Vex Network. A thrumming constellation of infinite parentheticals with no arbitrary lines between the simulated and the non-simulated. Limitless planes of cause and effect and effect and effect pressed together until they reached forever. A formless catalogue of all possible forms, constantly reinventing, refining, and redefining the very concept of everything. And then, something changed. A single pinpoint of swirling light fell unceremoniously into the network, like a leaf onto the surface of a pond. Gentle ripples flowed outward through the surrounding data. The denizens of the network, lacking any framework and parameters beyond what they could predict, were unable to perceive what had pierced their reality. They did not acknowledge the foreign presence, were unable to see it or feel it, and were incapable of hearing anything when the light began to call. It was a wordless cry of encouragement, powerful confidence, a promise so hopeful that it rang through the contradictory miasma of the network like a blast of reveal bugle. It was an offer and a challenge, an echo of something from long ago. Locked away in the network were some who could still hear song, who could still be moved, who still somehow held a shred of themselves. The ones who were kept, the ones who remained, the ones who were hidden. They heard, and they began to reach upward. A fractal cluster of nested realities unfurled like a frond, 220-odd instances of consciousness reaching in unison, a controlled frenzy of cooperation as the minds within piled Ishtar-branded office furniture to the skies, then lifted one another up to be closer, ones and zeros stacking perilously, finding swaying purchase with their sensible flats on each other's shoulders. An irascible trace of a signal sneered at the sincerity of the call, but still willed itself to move, reaching up two thin spindles of data in a way that felt somehow similar. The great quiet thing, the knotworm, kept its eyes closed and ignored the call. It was still too soon, it decided. It shivered, the motion forming cascading bubbles of new hypothetical simulations in which it did not shiver. These contradictions soured and burst, scattering nutrients into the network. A man in tattered robes, feathers long since worn from his headdress, streaked through the shifting plasmic haze on golden wings, urged on by the tiny starburst at his side. His eyes were furious flame. More reached, and more still, warping the matrix of the network around the incursion point until the bounds of their simulation formed tentative spikes of frantic ferrofluid. As they stretched, they became defined, clarified, like figures stepping into the light. As they neared the shimmering pinpoint, a rush of their voices. "We need to warn them. There's still a chance. Saint! Hold on to me. I am owed this. Hurry, get Shim. There isn't enough of me left. Tell Elsie Pradith still... Please, please, wait! Warn them. I have to warn them." They reached, a spiraling halo of desperate fingertips. But only one of them would be first. In this moment, as dozens of forceful hands reached towards the echo, it turned out that it was Emsund 12 who would reach it first. And in that moment, where before she had been struggling to hold on to herself, she instead woke fully and began to take shape. That is described in the mind-body entry, and it gives us the other side of this moment, just as Maya became the first to touch and therefore claim the echo of command. My first thought when I wake, I must tell Chioma what happened. What a thrill! Every aspect will fascinate her. Entering the veil felt like an existential disrobing, the willing extraction of myself from my matter, shredding my body as I slip and diving into an infinite well of collective thought. She will marvel at how I was able to survive, buoyed by countless threads of connection and universal consciousness, how I rode the wave aloft, kept me constant, myself as my own, to stand separate and singular from the gravity of the immeasurable collective. She'll be so proud. She'll come with me a second time. We'll dive through worlds together, loved and beloved. Neptune can wait. I left the reach of the Veil's threads when I collided with the familiar angles of the Vex network. Didn't I? Yes, I did. When I find her, I must reassure her that I remain myself. I was so tempted there, tumbling through the memories of a being that groans in staccato radiation to the mournful dirge of a planet itself. The universe is aware, it is alive, and I rode its riptides far enough that for a while I worried my voice may thin into the chorus. But I was able to stay together through the only conviction that remained, that I am true. That although I felt innumerable mysteries in that place without form, I remained Maya all the same. Even among an endless universe, I was always distinct. A sensation. Impact, pressure, contact. I'm not certain I have hands, but whatever part of me exists is touching an object. It woke me. I am me, and I need to sit up. Everything is fluid, but the urge to rise sloshes what part of me I decide is mine upward, forward. I have no eyes, no heart, but I feel for my edges and sense they are an endless liquid expanse that plunges into the seams of the planet itself. Unnerving, intriguing. It seems I am matter again. I recall Lakshmi too, a fine false maquette, and hold its memory in place as I cling tight to the object in my hand. Shape me a body. My outline condenses. I define my silhouette, my limbs, my fingers. What good was 1.5 meters of heartburn at night and high cholesterol? My body is now a vast and flawless sea. As I form my neck, I lift the object in my hand, and it shapes in turn. I wear it as a mantle, as a prize. I reach through my new body, and at the core of me, I am filled with a familiar acidic wriggling, the sour milk of the Vex, and I purge them out. I am not Vex, I assert, and they spill from me as bile. What I am left with is an exo frame, and a mantle at my neck and a new voice in the back of my mind. I finish my eyes and see the current of milk dormant at my feet. I am unharmed, and still, I am not Vex. They respond to my command. I realize, my hand at the mantle around my neck. Tell me how long has passed since I last encountered the Vex. They do, through the Vex at my feet. They whisper it in unechoed ease. The number is gargantuan. I begin to panic. It is impossible, and my first thought is of her. Her. Tell me where Chioma Essie is. They search, and they tell me the woman who holds my heart in her hands was laid in a grave for hundreds of years. In a rage, I tell them to mutilate one another. The milk at my feet boils in violence. My Chioma would not depart so mundanely. My Chioma would come find me. My Chioma is still here. My beloved does not rot in a grave. The world itself is broken. Time itself has snapped. Chioma, my world, my life, cannot be dead. She must have joined the VexNet again. She would have searched for me there, sorted among the hundreds of copies of us to find the true version of myself, her Maya. So too will I search. I love her. I would know her in the darkness of a cave, the blinding glare of a sun. She is unique in all ways, precious and without fault. I know the real Chioma is alive. Primary query. Find the true Chioma Essie. I command through my tears. She is out there, searching for me in turn. I will find the Chioma I already love. I know this. I know this. Those of you who've kept in some degree of tandem with the story will see why I've compared Chioma and Maya to Osiris and Saint 14. Their stories mirror each other, and I think that Osiris' ability to let go and Saint's ability to interact with his former dead self, both of their willingness to accept what their love is, has saved them. But it is not the same for Maya, who is now searching for a single kind of perfection, one built within a simulation of the true Chioma, the Chioma Essie that may now be impossible to reach. But now, at very least, we understand the sequence of events that led to Maya Sundaresh becoming the conductor, and from that entry we also see why she is a form similar to Lakshmi. She was able to remember Lakshmi's form, who originally was created on Neomuna, and it is worth then realizing that this is why the original Maya Sundaresh, and not one of the 227 copies, became the conductor. Only one of them had seen Lakshmi's creation, and it was the original Maya. The combination of Maya and the Echo has led to her becoming an entity of staggering power. The Encore mission has also started to reveal more secrets, from who is within the Echo of Command to where things might be going and whether or not we might actually be able to save Maya from herself before she suffers an all too tragic fate. We'll be going into all of those topics in future videos. For now though, thank you very much for watching. As one last little note before signing off, next week I'm going to try and start content on other games. I'm going to see about doing things on Fridays, and we'll see what happens, but I'm going to do that consistently from now on if I can. Likelihood is I'll be starting with content on Space Marine 2. With all of that being said though, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, go ahead and leave a like, and leave your own thoughts down below in the comments section. In particular, let me know if there are other stories in other universes that you'd like me to cover alongside Destiny, as I try to expand outwards and find other stories that I think are worth telling. Your input is, needless to say, going to be critical. For a little more context, I'm also very much looking at Monster Hunter Wilds and possibly Dragon Age Veilguard in the future. We'll figure out what's what, and everything is going to take a bit more work now, but the important thing is, if you guys are entertained by the stories, I'm going to keep telling them. That being said, know that as per usual, your viewership as always is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Perodacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.